Welcome back to the last video for Monster Mayhem for this fantasy fall. I'm using my spooky voice since I've been sick, and it seems appropriate that it being Halloween and everything, that the last monster that we go after and we talk about is going to be the one that we pretty much associate all Halloween type activities with, and that is the vampire. So let's talk about vampires. So where does your vampire land? Vampires tend to have certain categories that they are created in, and so I boiled it down into 3 parts into my vampire Venn diagram. Now, I'm no connoisseur or aficionado, but I've seen enough to know at least a few different examples and to where I like to tier them out. So there's the pretty vampires, the period piece vampires, and the monster vampires. Now the pretty vampires, that's like your Twilight and True Blood. Your period piece is both Dracula, the 1931, and Bram Stoker's. You have the monsters, which is like Blade 2 and Salem's Lot. Now your in-betweens are your Underworld, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Your pretty period piece is Interview with the Vampire and Sinners. Your period piece monster is Nosferatu, both new and old, and then all 3 converge together to make the Van Helsing Dracula that you can find in that wonderful little masterpiece of a movie, which was really fun because when we talked about the werewolf, a lot of people had the werewolf from Van Helsing as one of their favorites as well. So let's talk about teeth, because that's pretty much super important when it comes to the vampire, right? So you obviously have your teeth, your structure being your incisors up front and your canines and your bicuspids. Now, some have elongated canines, which would be natural because those are pointed to begin with. But you can also have elongated incisors, whether you want your front 2 tusk teeth or your second incisors, or sometimes you do the doubles where you can just kind of stagger, either having the inside being longer or the outside being longer. I have seen all of these used in various different ways, and then you also, if you're going to make it more monstrous, you can have it all snaggletooth as well. So talking about bat features, if you want to make your vampire a little bit more monstrous, I want to start with the bat wings. So we have our human arm, and a bat wing is very, very similar anatomically speaking to a human arm. We have the upper arm, the lower arm, which is much more elongated, and then the ridges for the wings are basically the fingers. They even segment into digits just like our fingers do. So we can use our fingers as models when you want to bend it. So when you're thinking of it as a 3D object, to make more complex movements, use that idea and use your finger digits to give you a nice guide and reference. And remember that the inside webbing is very soft. It's very pliable. Obviously it's stretchy, but it will flap and overlap it depending on how you're going to orient your digits. So let's get noses. Let's talk about some vampire noses. Now, it kind of looks like a pig nose if you smash it in. Also kind of looks a little weird. So the really, really crazy one I call the angry flower. That's a very typical vampire bat type nose. But then there's one that's also a little more simple, which I kind of call the teardrop and the heart shape. Either or, both of them are pretty typical when it comes to vampire bats, and so if we're going to put them on the human head, I need to have that nose area, and I just need to smash it in, and then everything kind of is going to radiate in response to that smashing. Now, it is amazing, though, whenever you add this nose and you allow it to kind of take over that head shape, it's amazing how monstrous your form becomes when you just change something up like that. Obviously you can change up the teeth and make them a little bit scarier as well, but it is just crazy that just doing one little piece like that really makes this thing look pretty monstrous. And don't forget the ears. Bats have very, very fascinating ears. They're not just triangles, they're actually a little more diamond shaped, but they do have a pretty deep curve to them, obviously because they've got great hearing. And there's actually inner ridges, which really, they pick up a lot of that echolocation and everything, which is really, really cool. So remember to feature those because they do appear very visible whenever you actually look at bats. So adding all of these little elements together, of course, will make your vampire in its bat form, if you choose to do so, a little bit more interesting and based in some reality, and actually has a little bit of logical explanation behind it. So those are the things that I consider whenever I'm drawing a vampire, and I don't know about you, but I don't get to draw these monsters all that often, so doing Monster Mayhem this fantasy fall has been an absolute blast for me. So thank you guys for watching and supporting. Head over to my school and join our community over there with other artists, and remember to go draw some monsters, and happy Halloween, everyone. Thanks.